me your name and spell it for me?
Grace Koopmans, Koopmans. A lot of people leave the S off.
All right, let me put this one up. Let's go ahead and put this on. We'll do that over again. This will take about 10 minutes here. And you got a perfect fast here. So we're going to go onto this side.
If there's enough vest to hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There we go. And we'll put your arm right over the top of that.
Okay.
Great.
There. So are you doing this with all the old timers?
Yes, we've talked to, I would have to go back to my notes. There was, I think Keith Foreman,
Yeah.
Jim Mullins, yeah. We've talked to him. We've talked to, and then some of my other workers have talked to other people.
Marty Lobdell, probably.
Not yet, but Marty's on the board and
Oh,
he's pretty easy for us to get.
good.
Let's, go a little bit higher. Okay, Grace, what years did you actually work here for?
I started in the fall or the summer of 1969, and I ended in 1985. So I was just here 16 years.
Okay, great. And again, tell me what it was like when you first were getting the department going.
It was very overwhelming because there was so much to do in a short period of time. Because I taught classes the first quarter I was here, and that was very difficult because I was trying to set up the 2-year curriculum and all the course outlines and do a lot of PR, and it was a big job, but it was very exciting, very challenging, and it was definitely a full-time job and then some, but I loved it. It was a great opportunity to put all the ideas that I had had through the years in all the places I had worked and to be able to set up a program from scratch. And I was the only one, so there was no one to argue with about whether we would do it this way or that way. I could use all my ideas, and that's pretty heady. It was great.
That's awesome. Tell me what it was like starting up a brand new program like ECE in that time when early childhood wasn't even thought of much of as a science, let alone a curriculum.
Unfortunately, most people didn't understand the importance of the early years until Head Start, which started in the summer of 1965. There was really nobody on your side if you were for young children, because although there was some research that had been done, it wasn't made that public, and so you had to persuade people that the early years were important, whereas administrators would say to me, well, Grace, it's not that important because your students are just going to be playing with the children. Well, it's not just playing with the children. We know now that the early years are the most important years in a person's life.
Yes. Which president were you under?
I was here under Dr. Oppelt. He was the first president of the college. When it started, it was Clover Park Community College. Then it changed to Fort Steilacoom Community College. And then when I left, it changed to Pierce College. I knew it would never be the same when I left, and it wasn't. But Dr. Oppelt was the president a good part of the time I was here, followed by several others before I left.
Do you have any good stories about any of the presidents that you were under?
I think I probably shouldn't share stories that I have about administrators because they're probably not very complimentary, because I was always fighting with them to get what I felt I needed for the good of the program, and so I wasn't their favorite person. And so I could tell some really funny stories, but I think it's best for me not to do that, even though I think I have outlived most of them, I think.
Tell me, just just tell me, do you have any good stories from like the first year or two?
Well, do you want any that I told?
Yeah, you could retell like one of those.
Like what? Do you remember anything I said?
Well, again, what was it like when they were building this place?
Is it still on?
Yeah.
It was a very exciting and rather traumatic time when we were building the lab school and building our early childhood education building, because architects had no idea of what I was talking about when I was talking about what we needed in the lab school. They didn't want us to have more than one classroom. We needed two, which we eventually got, but not to start with. I had to work very closely with the architects, and especially on the outdoor area. Later, we had a couple of landscape architects who had no clue what I was talking about. Finally found one who was really eager to learn, and so I think we have a great outdoor area. I'm very pleased with our lab school, and it's still good and ahead of its time. And I'm happy that I could work with the architects to make that come true. And so it is for the children and for the parents a wonderful place, and the students a wonderful place to learn. You have to have a lab school, a good lab school, if you're going to have a good early childhood education program.
Great. And how big was the first class?
At the beginning, the classes, my classes were large. The administration said I should take 40 people in my classes. Now, some of the classes were considered lab classes, and for lab classes, I forget the number that you had to have was much smaller. But they said, well, Grace, you need to have 40 in your classes because some of the other classes aren't going well, and you need to help them average out. So we had big classes. Finally, we got to have better sized classes.
What do you think was the popularity at the beginning?
I think we were popular to start with. People came on advising night. The line was out the door. Those who wanted to apply for taking classes in early childhood education. And I think the reason for that was that I was well known in the area, so that I belonged to a lot of professional organizations. I knew all the daycare centers, the nursery schools, and so on, so that they knew me, and I could tell them that we were going to start something exciting, and they trusted me, and they came. Many of them from cooperative nursery schools, some of them from other college districts, instructors who wanted more information about the young child. So we had great newspaper publicity. In those days, I'd had some journalism experience, and so I wrote up the articles and sent in a picture and took it down to the editor, and we managed to get wonderful publicity. So I think the PR was a great part of it. Plus, they were ready. They were eager. Students, people who were working with children wanted to improve. They wanted to be better. They wanted to learn more. And it was that enthusiasm that made it possible for so many people to come.
Awesome. Do you have any good behind-the-scenes stuff? Did you and the faculty do anything, or have any rituals or anything, get together once a year?
Our staff, my staff, when I was here, we were very close. We were good friends. We celebrated each other's birthdays. We went to each other's homes. Early on in the program, we had an early childhood education club, which the students belonged to. We were like a family. We cared tremendously about our students. We counseled them a lot. We helped them. Their lives changed. And I can remember when one of my instructors said, so-and-so mentioned a name, and she says, you've changed her life. And I said, why? I don't think I've said anything to her personally. But what she had gotten in the classes, when she found out what was necessary for the good development of young children, she applied it to her own life and discovered why she felt the way she did about herself. And she did. She became a new person. It was exciting to see the way that students' lives changed, but it was because we cared. And the staff that's at the college now in early childhood ed, they care. They take care of their students. And I'm thinking particularly of one student, if you'd like an example, one student who was in prison, and he was an arsonist, and he was given one last chance. He could go on parole. He had to enroll in school. And so the admitting office said, give him to early childhood education if they'll take him, because they'll take care of him. Actually, we first visited him when he was in prison. We talked to him. He came and enrolled in our classes. He was not highly academically oriented, but he was determined to get our full early childhood ed degree, which he did. I think he took intro to psychology 2 or 3 times in order to get our degree. When he came back, he graduated with our degree, and when he came back years later to thank us for what we had done for him, he said, you know, I would be in prison. I would have gone right back in if it hadn't been for the care that you gave me. And he said, maybe you're disappointed that I'm not working in early childhood education, but he said, you know, I'm married, I have 3 children, they have wonderful activities because of what I learned. I'm such a good father. And he says, now I'm in charge of all of the landscaping for a school district in another state. That's the kind of success story we had because we cared about our students.
Great. Just one last question. Is there anything you'd like to add about your time here at Pierce?
I think I was truly blessed to get to have this opportunity to do what I did here at the college, to be able to set up a program the way that I was able to do it, even though it was hard. It was hard work, but it was very rewarding. And the rewards are seeing the changes in people's lives and knowing that those students are going to go on and change lives of other people. And that is what makes it so worthwhile to have been here. I'm just proud that it has continued to be strong and is an outstanding program now. I'm very grateful for that because I wouldn't want all that hard work to go to waste.
Great. Thank you very much.